The universal misunderstanding. Dominic Reed had always believed that quantum crystals would be the most exciting discovery of his career. After 12 years of research at the Orbital Science Institute, he'd finally isolated a formation that could revolutionize interstellar communication. What he hadn't expected was for his breakthrough to be completely overshadowed by accidentally getting engaged to an alien princess. The day started normally enough in the Institute's crystal lab aboard the Europa Research Station. Dominic adjusted his protective goggles as he carefully manipulated the containment field around his latest specimen, a perfectly formed dodecahedron that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. "Something's different about this one," he muttered to himself, making notes on his tablet. The crystal's resonance patterns were unlike anything he'd documented before. As he adjusted the scanning frequency, the crystal's glow intensified unexpectedly. That's when the lab's warning systems activated. A spatial anomaly was forming directly above his workstation. Dominic barely had time to activate the emergency containment protocols before reality itself seemed to tear open, depositing an unconscious figure onto his lab floor. She was unmistakably not human. Her skin had a subtle iridescent quality, like mother of pearl, and delicate crystalline structures grew naturally from her temples in elegant spirals. She wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor, now cracked and sparking with residual energy. Dominic's training kicked in. Whatever the circumstances, there was an injured person in his lab. He grabbed the medical kit and knelt beside her, checking for vital signs. Her pulse was erratic but present, beating in an unusual triple rhythm. The stranger's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shifted color like aurora borealis. She spoke in a language he didn't understand, her voice musical but filled with obvious pain. Dominic activated his universal translator, hoping it could handle whatever dialect she was speaking. Emergency protocols failed, assassination attempt, had to jump. The translation came through in fragments as she tried to sit up, wincing. "Try not to move," Dominic said gently, administering a universal painkiller approved for most known sentient species. "I'm Dr. Dominic Reed. You're safe here." The stranger's eyes widened as the translator conveyed his words. "You offer aid freely. Without knowing my identity or allegiance." "Of course," Dominic replied, carefully treating a nasty-looking burn on her shoulder. "You're injured. That's all I need to know." A strange expression crossed her face, something between wonder and alarm. "I am Princess Vena of the Celestial Concordat. And you, Dr. Dominic Reed, have just initiated the sacred rite of eternal binding." Dominic's hands froze in the middle of applying a regenerative bandage. "I'm sorry, the what now?" "In my culture, to offer unconditional aid to another is the most intimate act of trust possible," she explained, her color-shifting eyes intense. "It is how we choose our life partners. You have honored me with the highest form of proposal." "But I'm a doctor, helping people is what we do," Dominic stammered, his mind racing. "There has to be some kind of cultural exemption for medical treatment." Vena shook her head solemnly. "The right transcends all social positions and circumstances. It is the foundation of our society's most sacred laws." She paused, studying his face. "You truly didn't know?" Before Dominic could respond, his lab's security system chimed. Multiple ships had just appeared in Europa's orbit, ships that matched no known human design. The Celestial Concordat had apparently noticed their princess's disappearance. "Your people are here," he said unnecessarily, watching the elegant vessels approach on his monitors. "Yes," Vena replied, her expression unreadable. "And they will expect to find their princess properly betrothed. I should warn you, refusing an initiated binding is considered a grave insult to the Concordat. The last time it happened, an entire solar system was temporarily shifted out of phase with reality." Dominic looked between the approaching alien fleet and the otherworldly woman sitting in his lab. He'd wanted his research to advance human understanding of the universe. He just hadn't expected it to become quite so personal. What exactly does being properly betrothed to an alien princess entail? He asked weakly. The crystal structures at Vena's temples glowed softly as her lips curved into what might have been a smile. That, Dr. Reed, is going to be a rather interesting story. Culture shock and starlight. The Europa Research Station's diplomatic chamber had never been designed for hosting alien royalty. Dominic sat uncomfortably in his best lab coat, watching as Station Director Harrison attempted to explain human courtship customs to the Celestial Concordat's chief ambassador, a tall being whose crystalline growths formed an impressive crown-like structure. Surely you understand, Harrison was saying, that on Earth, medical treatment isn't considered a marriage proposal. Dr. Reed was simply following his professional obligations. And yet, the ambassador responded, his voice resonating like wine through crystal caves, he chose to aid our princess without requirement or compensation. Among our people, such selfless action is the purest expression of devotion. Vena sat beside Dominic, her ceremonial armor replaced with what appeared to be living crystal silk that flowed like water. Her shoulder wound had already healed, leaving behind an iridescent scar that seemed to shimmer in the station's lights. Perhaps, she interjected diplomatically, we could find a compromise that honors both our traditions. The ambassador's crown crystals pulsed with deep blue light. The sacred rite of binding cannot be undone without severe consequences. However, he paused thoughtfully, there are precedents for extended courtship periods, particularly in cases involving interstellar diplomacy. Dominic seized on this possibility. A courtship period would give us time to understand each other's cultures, he suggested, surprising himself with how diplomatic he sounded. And it would allow me to continue my research. Ah yes, your study of quantum crystals, Vena said, her color-shifting eyes sparkling with interest. Did you know that my people's crystalline structures naturally resonate with quantum frequencies? It's how we navigate through space-time. Dominic turned to her, momentarily forgetting the diplomatic crisis. Really? That could explain the unusual resonance patterns I've been observing. The formation I was studying when you arrived showed similar properties to your temple growths. If I may, the ambassador interrupted, crown crystals now pulsing with an amused purple hue, this academic exchange proves most fortuitous. The Celestial Concordat has long sought to understand how other species interpret quantum phenomena. Director Harrison, seeing an opportunity, leaned forward. Perhaps we could arrange a scientific exchange program. It would provide an excellent framework for the extended courtship period. Over the next few hours, an unprecedented agreement took shape. Dominic would divide his time between Earth's research facilities and the Concordat's crystal cities, studying their natural quantum technology while learning their customs. Vena would serve as both his research partner and cultural guide, fulfilling the traditional role of a Concordat betrothed. Later, as they walked through the station's observation dome, Dominic finally had a moment alone with his accidental fiancée. The light of Jupiter painted everything in amber tones, making Vena's pearlescent skin glow. I feel I should apologize, she said softly. My emergency jump through quantum space disrupted your experiment and entangled you in our politics. Actually, Dominic replied, you might have helped me make a breakthrough. Those resonance patterns I was studying. They're exactly like the quantum signatures your ships use for navigation. We've been trying to understand quantum crystalline formations for years, but we were missing crucial variables. Vena's temple crystals shimmered with a warm golden light. In the Concordat, we believe that understanding comes through connection. Perhaps that's why the sacred rite of binding evolved around acts of unconditional aid. They reveal truth about both parties. Dominic considered this. In human science, we try to maintain objective distance from our subjects. But maybe some discoveries require getting personally involved. He gestured to the stars visible through the dome. Your people navigate spacetime through quantum entanglement. Mine are still learning how it all works. There's something poetic about us being, well, entangled. Vena suggested, her aurora-like eyes dancing with amusement. Exactly, Dominic laughed. Though I have to admit, when I started my research, I didn't expect to end up quantum entangled with an alien princess. And I didn't expect my assassination escape to lead to a research partnership with a human scientist, Venna countered. Her expression grew serious. We still don't know who sabotaged my ship. My presence here could put your station in danger. The Europa station has the best security in the solar system, Dominic assured her. And now we have a fleet of quantum-capable ships in orbit. Speaking of which. He hesitated, then pressed on. You never did tell me who was trying to assassinate you. Venna's temple crystals darkened to a deep indigo. There are factions within the Concordat who believe we should remain isolated from other species. They see my work in interstellar diplomacy as a threat to our traditional ways. She turned to face him fully. That's another reason I'm grateful for this arrangement. Your aid didn't just save my life, it may help save my people from their own fear of connection. Looking at her in the Jovian light, Dominic realized that their accidental engagement might lead to more than just scientific breakthroughs. Sometimes the most important discoveries weren't found in laboratories or among the stars, but in the unexpected connections that bridged different worlds. Hearts among the stars. The crystal spires of Luminara, capital city of the celestial Concordat, stretched toward the triple moons like frozen music. Dominic stood on a balcony of living crystal, watching as the city's quantum matrix pulsed with patterns that somehow felt familiar after 3 months of research. Your readings are getting stronger, Venna observed, adjusting the crystalline sensor array embedded in the balcony's surface. You're beginning to resonate with our quantum frequencies naturally. Dominic checked his own instruments, modified versions of his lab equipment from Europa Station. The human nervous system appears capable of adapting to quantum harmonics. This could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness itself. Always the scientist, Venna teased, her temple crystals glowing with warm amber light that Dominic had learned meant affection. Their time working together had taught him to read her crystalline emotions almost instinctively. Speaking of science, he said, the Earth Science Council is demanding more concrete results. They're calling our research too theoretical and compromised by personal involvement. He tried to keep the frustration from his voice, but Venna's crystals shifted to a sympathetic blue. The Concordat's traditional assembly is similarly concerned, she admitted. They believe I'm sharing too much of our quantum knowledge with outsiders. This morning, Assembly member Thorix suggested I'm being influenced by. She paused, searching for the right translation, inappropriate emotional entanglement. Dominic turned to face her. Are they wrong? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken implications. Over the past months, their research partnership had grown into something neither of them had expected. Every discovery, every shared insight, seemed to draw them closer together. My people believe that quantum entanglement is the universe's way of showing us that everything is connected, Venna said softly. We can try to resist it, to maintain what your scientists call objective distance, but the connection remains. Before Dominic could respond, an alarm chimed from the sensor array. The quantum harmonics were showing unusual disturbances in the city's matrix. Venna's crystals flashed warning red. These patterns, she said, fingers dancing over the controls, they're similar to the sabotage that forced my emergency jump to your station. Dominic pulled up his own readings, comparing them to the data he'd gathered during Venna's arrival. The resonance is almost identical. Someone's trying to disrupt the city's quantum field. The traditional assembly is in session right now, Venna said, her voice tight with concern. If the quantum matrix fails, the entire chamber could phase out of normal spacetime. They raced through corridors of living crystal, their footsteps echoing in harmony with the city's destabilizing pulse. Guards with crystalline armor tried to block their path to the assembly chamber, but Venna's royal authority and Dominic's now recognizable status as her betrothed got them through. The assembly chamber was a massive geodesic dome of pure quantum crystal. Dozens of Concordat nobles sat in tiered rings, their personal crystals adding to the complicated harmonic that maintained the room's quantum stability. At the center, Assembly member Thorix stood at a control interface, his crown crystals blazing with zealous purpose. "The connection must be severed," he declared. "Our people cannot maintain their purity if we allow these primitive beings to corrupt our quantum heritage." "You're wrong, Thorix," Vena's voice rang out. "Connection doesn't corrupt, it strengthens. Dominic, show them." Understanding flashed between them. Dominic activated his modified sensors, channeling them through his own nervous system the way Vena had taught him. His consciousness expanded into the quantum field, feeling the dangerous disruption Thorix had created. But he also felt something else, the subtle resonance he'd developed with Vena, their shared research creating a unique quantum signature. He focused on that connection, using it to stabilize the failing matrix. Vena joined him, their combined quantum harmonics spreading through the chamber like ripples in a cosmic pond. The destabilization began to reverse as other assembly members, feeling the strength of their synchronized frequencies, added their own resonance to the pattern. Thorix's sabotage dissolved in the face of their united quantum field. Guards quickly moved to apprehend him, but Dominic barely noticed. He was too absorbed in the revelation of what he and Vena had just accomplished. "That was incredible," he breathed as their consciousness returned to normal space. "The quantum harmonics responded to our combined signature as if we were truly quantum entangled," Vena finished, her crystals glowing with joy and discovery. "Our research wasn't just about understanding each other's sciences. We were proving that connection makes us stronger." The assembly members were rising from their seats, crown crystals pulsing with various colors of astonishment and revelation. What Dominic and Vena had demonstrated went beyond politics or tradition, it was a fundamental truth about the nature of their universe. Later, standing again on the crystal balcony under the triple moons, Dominic took Vena's hand. "I've been thinking about what you said about quantum entanglement being the universe's way of showing connection." And her aurora eyes met his, filled with starlight and possibility. "Maybe our accidental engagement wasn't an accident at all. Maybe it was quantum mechanics working exactly the way it was supposed to." Vena's crystals shimmered with the golden light of joy as they stood together, two beings from different worlds whose connection had just saved a city and changed two societies' understanding of the universe itself. Celestial Trials. The resonance trials are an ancient tradition, the Celestial Concordat's chief ritualist explained, her elaborate crystal crown casting rainbow patterns across the preparation chamber. Each couple must prove their quantum harmony through 3 challenges. Dominic adjusted the ceremonial crystal circlet they'd given him to wear, still unused to the way it seemed to pulse in time with his thoughts. "And if we fail?" "The betrothal would be dissolved," the ritualist said simply. "Though after your display in the assembly chamber, that seems unlikely." Vena touched his arm gently, her own crystals glowing with reassurance. "The trials aren't about perfection, Dominic. They're about demonstrating genuine connection." Before he could respond, a chime resonated through the chamber. In the viewing gallery above, members of the traditional assembly gathered alongside a delegation from Earth's Science Council, including Director Harrison from Europa Station. "Your first trial begins," the ritualist announced. "The harmony of minds." The chamber's walls shifted, becoming transparent and revealing a vast quantum field stretching into seemingly infinite space. Dominic and Vena stood on a crystal platform that began to separate into 2 distinct surfaces. "You must navigate the quantum void," the ritualist explained. "Find each other through resonance alone. Let your connection guide you." The platforms drifted apart, taking Dominic and Vena in opposite directions. Soon, they could no longer see each other through the swirling quantum energies. Dominic closed his eyes, focusing on the techniques they developed during their research. He felt the familiar resonance of Vena's quantum signature, like a melody he'd known all his life. Following it, he guided his platform through the void. Complex harmonics swirled around him, trying to lead him astray, but he kept his focus on that single, pure connection. The platforms drew together in a perfect synchronized orbit, earning appreciative hums from the Concordat observers. Dominic caught a glimpse of Director Harrison taking furious notes. The second trial, the ritualist announced. The dance of elements. Their platforms merged into a single crystalline sphere. Quantum energy began to coalesce around them in distinct patterns, fire, water, air, and formations Dominic had no words for. Guide the elements in harmony, the ritualist instructed. Let your combined resonance create beauty from chaos. Dominic and Venna moved together, their quantum signatures interweaving. The elements responded to their synchronized movements, forming intricate mandalas of energy and light. Their months of research had taught them how to blend their different approaches, his analytical understanding with her intuitive mastery. The final trial, the ritualist's voice echoed. The test of trust. The sphere surrounding them began to destabilize. Dominic felt the quantum field fluctuating wildly, threatening to tear their pocket of space-time apart. One must anchor, one must journey, the ritualist said. Only absolute trust will maintain the connection. Venna met his eyes. I'll anchor, she said. Journey well, my scientist. Dominic nodded, understanding. As Venna stabilized their quantum sphere, he let his consciousness expand into the chaotic field. The void tried to overwhelm him, but Venna's resonance kept him grounded, a lifeline in the quantum storm. He pushed further, gathering fragments of pure quantum energy. Following their connection back, he wove the energy into a stable matrix around their sphere, transforming chaos into harmony. As the final patterns settled into place, applause erupted from the viewing gallery. Even the most traditional assembly members seemed impressed. Director Harrison was grinning like she'd just witnessed the discovery of the century. The trials are complete, the ritualist declared. Your quantum harmony is proven true. Later, in a quiet garden of crystal flowers, Dominic and Venna had a moment alone. You know, he said, the Science Council is going to want detailed reports on everything that happened in there. They're already calling it a breakthrough in quantum consciousness studies. Venna laughed, her crystals sparkling with amusement. And the traditional assembly will want to document how a human achieved such deep quantum resonance. We're going to be writing papers about this for years. About that, Dominic said carefully. I've been offered a permanent research position here on Luminara. Joint quantum studies between our peoples. And he took a deep breath. The Europa station is establishing a permanent embassy. They need a science advisor who understands both cultures. Venna's crystals shifted to deep gold, the color of joy. Are you suggesting we turn our accidental engagement into an actual diplomatic partnership? I'm suggesting that what started as a quantum accident has become the most important discovery of my life, Dominic said softly. And I don't just mean the science. Above them, the triple moons of Luminara painted the crystal garden in shifting colors, not unlike the aurora of Venna's eyes. Their journey had started with an act of simple human kindness and led to a revolution in both science and understanding between their peoples. Besides, Dominic added with a smile, after passing the resonance trials, a normal Earth wedding should be easy. Venna's crystalline laugh echoed through the garden. Don't be too sure. I've been studying Earth customs. What exactly is a conga line? Between two worlds. The great hall of Europa station hummed with an unusual mix of energies. Crystal formations from Luminara cast dancing lights across the typically austere research facility, while traditional Earth flowers added splashes of color between the quantum arrays. Two cultures, two ceremonies, one unprecedented celebration. Dominic stood before the gathered witnesses, wearing his formal Earth suit with a crystalline circlet that pulsed in harmony with his nervous system. He watched as Venna approached, her traditional Concordat regalia seamlessly blending with an Earth-style wedding gown. Her temple crystals shimmered with all the colors he'd come to know, gold for joy, blue for depth of feeling, and a new shade of rose pink he'd never seen before. The quantum readings from this ceremony are fascinating, Dr. Patel whispered from her position as Earth's chief scientific witness. The harmonic convergence of both species' biorhythms is creating entirely new patterns. Always the scientist, Director Harrison murmured back with a smile. Just like someone else we know. The ceremony itself was a carefully choreographed blend of Earth and Concordat traditions. The traditional exchange of rings was paired with a quantum harmonics ritual, the metal bands containing specially grown crystals that resonated with both their frequencies. Their vows were spoken in both languages, the words creating ripples in the quantum field that the attending Concordat nobles responded to with approving glows. Through science, we discovered each other, Dominic said, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. Through understanding, we bridged our worlds. And through love, we've created something entirely new. Vena's response came in the musical tones of her native language, the translator providing the Earth words while the quantum harmonics conveyed the deeper meanings. In the space between stars, in the void between moments, we found a connection that transcends traditional bounds. Our resonance creates new harmonies, proving that difference breeds strength. The formal binding involved both a traditional Earth kiss and a Concordat quantum merge, their shared consciousness briefly expanding to include all the witnesses in a moment of perfect understanding between species. Even the most skeptical scientists present couldn't deny the beauty of what they experienced. At the reception afterwards, humans and Concordat nobles mingled with growing ease. Dr. Patel was deep in discussion with a crystal-crowned physicist about quantum consciousness theory. Director Harrison shared stories with the Concordat ambassador about the day Vena had first arrived, both laughing at how far things had come. The new quantum communication arrays are ready for testing, Dominic told Vena as they shared a quiet moment. Once they're online, real-time communication between Earth and Luminara will be possible for everyone, not just those with quantum sensitivity. And the cultural exchange program has more applicants than we can handle, Vena added, her crystals glowing with satisfaction. Humans wanting to study quantum sciences, Concordat youth fascinated by Earth culture. We've started something bigger than ourselves. Speaking of starting things, Dominic said carefully, the quantum fertility specialists have finished their research. They believe a child between our species would be possible, through a combination of genetic science and quantum harmonics. Vena's crystals flashed with surprise before settling into a warm, deep gold. You've been doing research without me. I wanted it to be a surprise. For when you're ready. He took her hand, feeling the familiar resonance between them. No pressure. We have all the time in the stars. A commotion near the quantum arrays drew their attention. A group of human children, offspring of the station's crew, were being taught Concordat crystal growing techniques by a patient noble. Their small faces lit with wonder as tiny crystalline structures emerged from their combined quantum field. The next generation won't see our differences as barriers, Vena observed. They'll grow up knowing that the universe is full of possibilities. Speaking of possibilities, Dominic grinned, are you ready for our honeymoon? The quantum ship is prepped for our survey of the Orion Nebula's crystalline formations. Only you would turn our honeymoon into a research expedition, Vena laughed, her crystals sparkling. Hey, you're the one who suggested we look for new quantum phenomena in deep space. Besides, he pulled her close, I seem to remember some very promising results from our previous private research sessions. Their laughter joined the harmonics of the celebration, adding new notes to the quantum symphony of their shared life. Above them, through the station's viewports, Earth and the stars beckoned with endless possibilities. They had started as two people from different worlds, brought together by a simple act of kindness. Now they stood as proof that the greatest discoveries often come not from looking out at the stars, but from reaching across the void to connect with others. Their story would be told in two cultures, in the scientific archives of Earth and the crystalline records of the Concordat. Not just as a tale of first contact or diplomatic success, but as evidence that love, like quantum entanglement, transcends the conventional bounds of space, time, and species. In the end, what began as an accidental proposal had become something far more profound, a bridge between worlds, a revolution in science, and a reminder that the heart's quantum frequencies speak a universal language all their own.